You are watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by the good people of the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated. Paul will not be joining us on this show. He will be with us talking with Taylor at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'll tell you what, this is a great show. It's an honor. Everybody knows that Kerry Goulet is the biggest Winnipeg Jets fan, as was my mother. You can see in the background, Winnipeg Jets are number one. And I've got two of the greatest. I know some more are going to join us. It's Norm Beaudin's 79th birthday. When you see this young buck, you'll think, oh my God, what type of cream is he using to keep him looking so young? And then I know I shouldn't say this because it's embarrassing, but my two favorite Winnipeg Jets, sorry, Norm, I would say you know you are deep down inside. Bobby Hull knows that I love him, but Ulf Nilsson and Anders Hedberg. There were never two better players, nicer guys, but more importantly, I got to skate with them. He will never remember that, but I got to skate one shift or 1 3-on-2. I can't even remember it was in River Oaks where they practiced. I can't remember the name of the arena, but I'll tell you what, I'm a little nervous getting on with these dudes, but I'll tell you, it is going to be a great show. We're going to be talking about the first AVCO Cup. And a lot of you guys may not even know what the AVCO Cup is. We'll obviously go through it. I just see in the green room, Peter Sullivan is joining us too. So this is going to be a great show, guys. There is no better a time than to introduce these three legends of the Winnipeg Jets. Norm Beaudin, happy birthday.
Thank you very
Nielsen,
much,
number
Bruce.
14.
Yes, happy birthday, Norm.
Peter Sullivan. Peter, it's a good look at his. Hey, hi, Peter. How are you?
Sully, how are you doing?
Sully.
They're trying to get him on, so that's great to have Peter with us. They'll figure that out in a few seconds. Listen, sorry, Ulf, I had to throw that out there because people know how big of a Winnipeg Jets fan. I brag about the Jets wherever I go. I didn't make the club in 1977 was my draft year. Fran Huck, I'm sure you know the name, was an agent at the time and said, hey, you can skate. I think I can get you a tryout. And John Ferguson Sr., when he was going into the NHL, got me to come out to a little pre-rookie camp. But that was before the time I got to see you guys play in the WHA. And there were not, I don't think two players changed the game as much as you and Anders did, just for the fact that they called us undisciplined if we went from the left wing to the right wing, but you guys were everything. You were like a rover in soccer, and I just absolutely love that. So thank you for joining us. Obviously, Norm, it's your day. It's your birthday. And, of course, 40 years ago, it was when you guys, 45 years ago is when you guys won the first AVCO Cup. If I could ask Norm, the birthday boy, first, your thoughts of winning that first cup. Obviously, you being the original Jet back in '72, but it took you that many years to win it. What an experience.
Oh, it was great. We, especially with the powerhouse we had, we were strong from goalie to defense to forward. And, we had all the tools to win the championship. And of course, we beat Houston 4 straight, and we beat also a powerhouse with Gordie Howe and his 2 boys. So we had a great hockey team, and like I said, we had 3 top lines. Our defense was better than anybody in the NHL, I would say, and goaltending was great. So we had a championship team, and we did it. It was great.
So obviously, you coming over from Sweden, obviously with Anders Hedberg. Did you come with Lars-Erik Schuberg also? Is it the 3 of you?
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to us about that. Obviously, it's not like today we don't have these things, and we didn't have an iPad or a computer, or the fax machine, the paper still rolled up. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Winnipeg we had a lot of black and white TV. You coming from Sweden, how much did you know before you were asked to come over?
Not
about the
very
NHL?
much, really. And in those days, they never drafted European players. The way they did it in the NHL, they just faxed a name into the NHL office, and I belonged to Buffalo, and Anders was the property of Toronto. And Lars-Erik, I think, belonged to Minnesota. and it was Dr. Jerry Wilson that was over doing some research in Sweden, and he told the people in Winnipeg, I think you should really go after these guys because they can really change the game over there. And Anders and I and Lars-Erik talked a lot about it must be so much easier to move to a new country together with some of your teammates. And I think, Norm, you can probably explain this to the people that are watching and listening. But I think the first year was very difficult because Ernie Wakely and Joe Daly was trying to renegotiate the contracts. And I think the management said, okay, Ernie, we're not going to keep you. We're going to sign Kurt Larsson, a Swedish goaltender. And I think what happened when we came over, 4 players took away some of the jobs from Canadian players. And I think it was a little difficult to get the team together. This was the year before we won the championship. And I think we played well the first year, but we didn't make the playoffs. And I still can't understand why we didn't make the playoffs. Mm. Can you explain how the feeling was on the team? That because I think I would also be scared, like if 4 foreigners come over and take jobs away.
Well, the reason we didn't make the playoffs, we were in the wrong division because we had a super year all year, and then unfortunately we didn't make it because we had the team to go all the way. But but our team, we were strong, especially with the hotline with Bobby Hull and Hedberg and Ulf at center. I mean, what a powerhouse! We had the best power play probably in both NHL and WHA with those 3 guys playing, and like I said, we didn't make the playoffs, and it was unfortunate for the fans of Winnipeg because we had a super year and yet can't make the playoffs, and especially with a powerhouse like we had, it was sad.
Hey, listen, guys, I see that Peter Sullivan has joined us. Let's just see if we got him. Peter, are you there?
I sure hope so.
We can see you, Peter. My name is Kerry Goulet. Thank you for joining us. I just got a notice from Anders Hedberg. He's trying to get on. Unfortunately, Ulf, it's probably similar to what you went through. They told us you have to come on in Chrome, and for us older guys, really tough sometimes. So I apologize for the inconvenience. Zoom is a little bit different. This is a show where I can bring up pictures and stuff. So we love using this program, and it's also with the hockey news. So Peter, thank you for
just don't make excuses. That's fine.
That was the excuse. I'm blaming you guys. All right, Peter, thanks for joining us. Of course, it's Norm's 69th birthday, he told us. I think he's lying about sure.
Yeah, big 70 next year.
All the best, Nori. Love you.
Thank you.
So, Peter, we had a chance to talk with Ulf and Norm, obviously, of that 76 team. And it was a very good question or even point that Ulf brought up the first year they came, that you guys didn't gel to win the first time. And he felt maybe it was a situation where, the North Americans were kind of begrudged that these 4 Swedes came over and took some of the boys' job. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Well, you know what? The year that Normie and Ulfie were talking about there, I came the year after, obviously. And I heard a lot of stories prior to that Winnipeg was probably, well, that's the reason I ended up signing in Winnipeg from what I had heard of that year. And I was so proud that when Billy Robinson called me and asked me if I would like to come to the Winnipeg Jets, and we just got knocked out of the playoffs with Montreal's farm team in Nova Scotia with the Voyageurs. And he told me the style that they play, what they like to do. And I said, well, that's no different than the way I played. And I was fortunate to come that first year, my first year, I should say, in 75. And we ended up winning the whole thing. But I would really have to thank, again, as we all do, I mean, you don't want to say it too often, but maybe you should. I mean, with Alfie Anderson, Bobby, especially Shu, and I know, and Kurt was a big part of it too that year. But those guys were unreal. I can't say enough, especially with Alfie online here right now. He's probably the toughest player I've ever seen to play the game, and that goes in the WHA and the NHL. But we just happened to connect with Velo and Hexy, and Willie, of course, was over there at the time. And as great as the hotline was, we also had not a bad second line. And Normie would say that too, that he could have played on the first, second, or third line.
Well,
Look at who's joined us.
Thanks,
We
Peter.
found Anders Hedberg.
Hey.
Thank you, sir, for taking it for the team to get on. That's
Good to
fantastic.
see you. You made it. But
Oh, we see him.
Almost.
if I may,
Well, he's there.
If I may continue what Peter was saying,
Please
you
do.
know,
Yeah.
we had the most talented players from Sweden and Finland. So, you know, you couldn't go wrong. And I tell you, maybe they might have thought they were taking jobs from the Canadian hockey players, American hockey players. But with the fans of Winnipeg
No,
accepted.
Anders.
I have
Sorry,
the
Andrew.
computer on and my cell phone on, and I don't know which one. I don't know if I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
we
we
hear
can
you
hear you.
perfectly.
Yeah, it's good now. But
Modern
if I may-
technology.
if I may continue, you know, we had the most talented players from Sweden and Finland, and the fans didn't take long to accept their talents. And of course, the rest is history. The most talented line in NHL or the WHA, with Bobby Hedberg and Ulf, no doubt about it. I'd put him against any line in the NHL or WHA anytime.
Can't agree with you more. Anders, do you hear us? Anders, do you hear us?
It's the same way on the ice, Alfie. He could never hear you.
He can
Anders,
find
come
you
on.
though.
Have a glass of wine. It's 7 o'clock, 7:30 in Sweden.
Well, we're having some
Yeah, I can
fun
hear
here.
you. Yeah,
Okay.
a little
So
delayed,
Anders,
but I can hear you. Yeah.
well, you are over the ocean. I think Ulf lives a little bit closer by a kilometer.
How many
so that's why he
headsets
doesn't
do you
have
have?
He doesn't want to listen to it.
So Anders, if you don't mind, I know you're delayed, so we'll. You certainly weren't delayed on the ice, but it's Norm's birthday, so this is a great opportunity for us to come together, the original Jet, and celebrate, you know, the 1976 AVCO Cup. And so we'd like to hear your thoughts on coming over with obviously Ulf and Lars for the first time and not really knowing what to expect.
Congratulations. Are we singing for you, Norm, or what are we doing?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's hear you. Let's hear you sing.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Get started.
Anders, your old saying, do. Your sister Rose is dead. You remember that one?
Peter?
Well, it was exciting. I had never been in Canada before, and it was no walk in the park, put it that way.
Keep going, Anders.
It was too cold to be a walk in the park.
We're delayed.
It's your turn, Anders. You have the puck.
Shoot.
You guys, I think I'm gonna continue. There was no walk in the park, but we had. It was very exciting. Everything was new. A little different game. Ended up in Winnipeg. Didn't know anybody, and Jerry Wilson and the management and coaches had indicated that we played with Bobby, but Ulf and I knew, as any other player, if it works out fine, we will play with Bobby. Otherwise, we won't play with him. But it was magic from the first time we hit the ice on St. James St. James Ice Arena.
Ravens Court.
We were practicing with Winnipeg of University of Winnipeg, I think it was. We were practicing. Bobby was going to Team Canada. It was magic. It worked. The antennas was up. We figured it out. We changed directions. We were delaying the line rushes. We were switching sides. And somewhere along the line, we just knew, because of our hockey sense, that what the other was going to be doing. So it was just an unbelievable experience.
You know, I've heard many people say it was the Russians that changed the game. I honestly believe, because I got the opportunity to watch you guys play, I think it was your line that actually changed the way the game was played, with the line rushes, as you mentioned, from left to right. Nobody knew who was the center or the left winger or the right winger. You guys just complemented each other so much. Peter, would you agree with that? Is that an assessment that makes sense?
Oh, definitely. It's well, I was kind of raised that way. I come from a hockey background, and my dad always said, you know, you got 200 feet of ice out there. You don't always have to stay in your lane, and you can go anywhere you want, but you have to have the players to play with. And I think that was the ingredient that these three especially brought, not just to the North American game, but to the game itself. And it's unfortunate that they haven't been recognized, as Normie has said earlier too, as I would say, it's still the best line in hockey I've seen. And yes, I've seen Gretzky, Lemieux, and Messier play together, but there was nothing like these three.
Alf,
could you money, Peter?
Oh, mind your own business.
Hey, Alf, could you tell? Obviously, Peter said earlier, you know, how important it is. You guys were the best line. There's no question. But you also had Norm and Peter. You had a bunch of great second and third line players that could, you know, shift if somebody got hurt. How important was that for you three, you, Bobby, and Anders? Obviously, to know behind you was a team of really good talent.
I wish I could lift my hat, Peter.
Yeah.
Alf?
Yeah, well, you can't play with just one line. Like Norm said, we had great goaltending, good defensemen, and three really great lines. But in most teams that are successful, you maybe have to have a clear power play unit. And that's what we had in Winnipeg. And I think a lot of the players, they understood their role. And I think that's very important, because you can't have just 16 players the same style. You have to have a little bit of everything.
So for both you and Anders, Alf, coming over and winning an AVCO Cup, the first one in '76, of course, what was that feeling? Because obviously the game was different in Europe as it was in North America. There was the WHA versus the NHL. And so there was this competition factor, and somebody would state, it's only the WHA, it's not the NHL. But listen, some of the teams you played on could have beat most of the NHL teams.
I don't think we ever lost to an NHL team in the preseason. We played them in a lot of exhibition games. And I think we could have done really well in the NHL with that team.
Anders.
Do you have a slow internet, Anders?
Sounds like. Hey, I think we better lend him money for a new Wi-Fi system. Norm, could you then, Anders, you just jump in whenever you just jump in.
The question is, do you follow up on Ulf?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I'm just slow. Exactly. No, I tell you, hey, Ulf,
Yeah, that's me.
I'll jump in right now to.
Thank you.
Yes, I follow up on Ulf.
Have you been drinking, Anders?
I'm slow.
You
I was
should be.
fast on the ice, but very slow.
But if I may,
There we go, buddy. Yeah, jump in. Norm.
step in here, like Peter Sullivan and Hexie Rioranta complimented Ulf Nilsson very well. Top centerman in hockey at that time. So we had strength from Schoberg. Can you
There is
imagine
a disconnection, as you notice, between the pictures and yeah. So you guys continue, and I'll jump in maybe once in a while.
Hey, all.
Peter, what are we going to do with him?
Can you send him a bottle of wine? All right, Normie, finish off, bud.
Yeah, I was just saying that Peter and Hexie really, and not Hexie, but Velo complimented Ulf definitely, and of course on defense we had Schoberg, we had Bergman, we had Larry Horning. We had a real strong D. Our blue line was really strong, and with our power play, with Bobby Hull and everybody else contributing. I mean, what a powerhouse! What a powerhouse we had in Winnipeg.
Peter, there are some players that we haven't mentioned. Of course, Ted Green was on that team. He came later. Lyle Moffat, Larry Hillman. Talk to us about those role players. Mike Ford, who I know, obviously Joe Daly and Net. Talk to us about the role players, not just the top three lines. You also had some gritty guys that were there to help you guys obviously take control of teams that were coming in, not only to the Winnipeg Jets, but when you're on the road.
Yeah, I think first of all, I would have to start off with Teddy Green. Everybody knew his reputation from the past. And what I didn't know about Teddy Green until I got there is how dedicated he was, not only to the club, but to every individual in the club. And I remember I had to miss training camp my first year with Winnipeg because Montreal wouldn't let me go. And he had me doing extra stuff on the ice. Like, I thought training camp was hard. Well, Teddy made it even tougher for me. And I had so much respect for Teddy, the type of player that he was. He came to play every night as hard as anybody. And as I said, his name says a lot for himself. And again, of course, we had the other guys here, like Larry Hillman. I mean, he had more experiences than anybody. And anybody that can get traded 3 days in one airport, I mean, that's a record in itself. And that's Morley for you. That's Larry Hillman for you. But no, and then Lyle Moffat came on board from Cleveland, I'm sure it was. And I always remember Lyle, after the first practice, he said, I don't know if I can take this anymore. He said, I've never seen a team practice so hard. And I said, well, just take a look at the guys on the ice that you're going to be dealing with. And I said, from here on in, Lyle, it's the way it's going to be. So if there's anybody I've forgotten, Normie can probably jump in.
Norm.
I think
we had guys like Bobby Gendon and Lyle Moffat for sure. And and I think if I can blow my own horn here,
please do. It's your birthday.
I
the first time.
I played with Bobby Hull, of course, my first year, but I had to do a little transition from offense to defense, and I think we had one of the best penalty killing duo or trio in the league with Lyle Moffat, Bob Gendon, myself, and I think I had to do a transition, and it wasn't too difficult, especially when you had guys like Bobby Hull, Ulf, and Hedberg, saying, "Okay, let's go on the power play and score a goal and win this game." And I was confident that if we did get behind and we had a power play, I knew they were going to go out there and score a goal. And of course, Peter's line also. So it was great playing. It was a great achievement to win the AVCO Cup, and great playing with such great talented hockey team in Winnipeg.
Ulf, is there one moment in your time in Winnipeg where you look back and say, wow, that guy was a big jokester? Is there somebody not on this panel? Obviously, you're very good friends with Anders, but is there somebody that you could tell us a story about that was, you just thought, wow, that guy's a little crazy?
Well, there were a lot of crazy people in Winnipeg. No,
Well, just living there at minus
kidding.
40.
Just kidding. But going back to what Peter said and what Norm said, you have to have role players to understand why they're on the team. And we worked really hard in practice. And that was Bobby's philosophy. It's an easy one. If you work hard in practice, the games are so much easier.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I'm going to hold this sign up to see if Anders can say something. Anders. It's too bad the internet sometimes plays.
69 years old.
But what Ulf was saying.
Thanks, Norm.
What Ulf was saying, Bobby, from day one, I mean, I couldn't believe.
I can say something, but I think it's delayed somewhere. We had lots of different dimensions that needed to be a good hockey team. We had different personalities. We had different nationalities. We had guys from the East, guys from the West, and somewhere along the line, it came together very well in Winnipeg.
Super. Here's a great picture of the hotline. Obviously, much younger version of the line. Ulf, what do you do now? Are you retired? Are you out still on the ice with kids? What's your daily responsibility?
I'm more or less retired 2011, but I have a hobby project in Stockholm. I have over 100 people storing wine at my wine cellars.
Oh.
So it's kind of an interesting job, really. You meet a lot of nice people, and I get to drink a lot of wine with people that are so much younger than I am. And
I'd love to come and visit you.
It's really a lot of fun.
So is that an open invitation for all of us to come over to Stockholm and test out some of the? That's Hey, be careful because we
main key to every locker.
Hey, Peter, what are you doing now? What's your daily routine?
Well, obviously, with the NHL, we're all out of work right now. I'm with NHL Central Scouting, and obviously everything is on hold. So we're just waiting to see how things come in the next few months, and hopefully things will get back to going again. But until we get things cleared up in the U.S., that's where the big problem is right now. So hopefully the new regime that comes in there will do something about it.
So can I ask all four of you, and hopefully we can get Anders to answer too. We'll start with you, Ulf. The game today, obviously, when you played, you went from the WHA, you went into the NHL, and now where it is today, watching McDavid's and Draisaitl, Germany, obviously producing incredible talents, players from Sweden, this mixture of players from all over the world. Give us your thoughts on then and now. Ulf.
Well, it's a complete different game, and they are practicing much better than we ever did. They have better skates, they have better sticks, and they are so much more professional than we ever were, I think. And the salaries are a little different too, so the stakes are a little bit bigger for the players. But it's scary though, how the shoulder pads and the elbow pads, they're like weapons nowadays. And I think they got to change that, because I think that's the problem we're having with all the concussions. It's that the elbow pads and the shoulder pads are so big and they're so fast on the skates. So somehow they got to change it a little bit. We did never had the 2-line pass, and that's opened up the game as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's a big difference.
Normie, or if Anders, whenever you want to jump in, just jump in.
To me, it's amazing. Like Ulf was saying, their practices are different. The coaching is different. Goaltending is different. They're all 6'6" now, and so it's hard to score on those guys. But the skills that I see, what is happening on the ice, what they do with the puck, it's just amazing. You know, like guys picking up the puck behind the net and scoring a goal. That's totally amazing. And what they can do going around a defenseman, and their passes are unbelievable. And of course, the skating is so much better with the new skates and the new equipment. I'm enjoying hockey. I love it, and I think this, like Ulf was saying, the equipment is a little different, so they might have to change that a bit. But as far as the talent is concerned, I'm enjoying hockey all the way.
Peter, I know you're seeing it every day, or well, right now with the shutdown, you're not, but you being in the scouting system, what are your thoughts from then and now?
Well, I think what both Alfie and Normie has said so far is true, but I go back. I mean, I know when they do the All-Star games and the fastest players, and you see them on the ice, but I think Alfie had mentioned it, that when you take the neutral zone out, there were guys just as quick, even 30 years ago, but you have to slow down when you come to the neutral zone. Then you've got to speed up again. And then you don't really see how fast they are because the pace of the game has changed today without the center ice. And yeah, I mean, equipment is so much better. Well, you can't argue that. And you can talk about the skates all you want and all that, but you know what? There's still guys that were just as quick 30, 40 years ago as they are today. But because of the rules of the game has changed, it looks a lot slow when you see the old games on TV.
I agree with that. Anders, any chance we can get you to comment on that?
In about 10 minutes.
So as we're waiting for Ulf or Anders to Ulf, the best thing that ever came outside of the players, Jofa. I wore the Jofa helmet until Europe disallowed it in 1997. That could explain some of my concussion issues. And my first pair of pro skates were the Jofa. Remember, they used to have kangaroo leather. And
I have lots of thoughts. I have lots of thoughts.
Give us two. We're holding up signs for Anders Hedberg.
While we're waiting, I think the shots haven't changed. I think Bobby Hull was shot with 104.
There's such a strange connection here, obviously. But I will give you my thoughts about the game today, and I enjoy it very much, and I've enjoyed it all my life. I ended up playing in New York. I was 35, moved right into executive or scouting positions. And it was such a beautiful ride of hockey, and the hockey today is better than ever. The players are terrific. They are training very, very hard, and I continue here. And the players today are better than they ever were before. There's one little thing, though, that they might not be much better, and that's reading the game. I'm not so sure that they have figured out the game itself, where the puck is going. I mean, Gretzky played for 30 years ago, and nobody is close to him in hockey sense. And he's Einstein still, and that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, on the right-hand side, we have a couple of comments. Chuck Basti, my first connection with the Winnipeg Jets came from my first goalie coach, Gordie Tumlinson. He only played a few games with the Jets. Do you remember him, Normie?
Oh yes, very much. Yeah.
He taught me to stack the pads, move that called Joe Daly. Tell us the importance of Joe Daly in the process of winning. Norm.
Well, Joe Daly was one of the best, and he was so dedicated. I mean, he was passionate about the game, and he worked hard in practice, and of course, every game he was there to play. He was there. He came to play every night. So, Joe Daly was a big player when we won the championship, and he continued to play great after I left and won 2 more AVCO Cup, which is great that he was there. He was great support for the hockey team.
You are watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. Paul will be on the show with Scott Taylor at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We are with the famous Ulf Nilsson, Anders Hedberg, Peter Sullivan, of course, 79-year-old. Happy birthday, Norm Beaudin. Listen, Ulf, I want to ask you this question, and I'd like to get the same answer from you, Peter. Ulf, you went into the finals against Houston Aeros. If I'm not mistaken, I should have done a little bit more due diligence, but I believe Gordie Howe was playing on that team. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the 2 boys.
Yes, but why did you manhandle them 4 straight? There was talk that it should have been a bitter series, but you guys completely dominated. Is there any reason you think of thinking back in that time?
Well, I remember the first 2 games down in Houston, very close to the end of the game. We had a face-off to the right of the Houston goalie, and I was going to take the face-off against Gordie Howe. And I said to Bobby, I'm going to win this one. It's going to come really, really hard to you. And both games, he scored the winning goal that way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I remember very plain. It was great.
Yeah.
I was watching from the bench.
You had the best seat in the house.
That's right.
Your thoughts on that series? Sweeping the Arrows in the way you did. Yes, some of the games were close, but did you think that you had the chance of just walking through that series?
I didn't think it was possible to win 4 straight, especially against Gordie Howe and the 2 boys, because they had a great hockey team and they showed it all year. But in the playoffs, again, we were stacked from the goalie right to the forwards, and we proved it 4 games in a row. But like I said, anytime we needed a goal, and Ulf was telling Bobby, be ready. And sure enough, Bobby was there to score both goals, and it was great winning 2 straight in Houston and then going home to one of the best fans in the NHL and the WHA at that time. It was great to go back leading 2-0 and being pretty confident in winning the series in Winnipeg.
So I'm going to ask you, I really appreciate all your time. I know it's late night in Sweden. And Peter, you're in Winnipeg, are you not?
Regina right now.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask the last question. I'd love to do this again and get a couple more guys on, especially getting Anders on at the same time. I think he's in a different time zone, but I'd like to ask you this final question for you. It's been great to have you here today, of course, especially on Norm Beaudin's 79th birthday. What's your fondest moment in the history of your time with the Winnipeg Jets? Could you share with the fans what your most, I wouldn't say proudest moment, but the one you just look back and say, wow, I'm really glad I picked the Winnipeg Jets, or the Winnipeg Jets picked me?
Peter. Sorry. You were asking Normie or myself?
I'd like to get all 3, but Peter, why don't you start it off?
Well, obviously, you can't really pick one because you have different reasons. When things happen during the years in Winnipeg with all these guys here. And, I've got a personal one myself, but I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah.
I just think that I think the first day I walked in from Montreal, I really didn't know what to expect, except after I had mentioned earlier about what Billy Robinson said. You know, this guy and that guy, you're going to be surprised. You know, they're a lot better team than what they played like last year when they should have made the playoffs. But I don't know. It's tough. I mean, of course, winning the championships are great, but I think what you do in between the championships are just as important as winning them. And that's what I felt. So we got so close. Alf had mentioned it earlier. Like, it didn't matter where you were from. We were as good friends with everybody on the club. And I think that's what made it special, Winnipeg, is that we could call anybody our best friend. And I don't think that happens quite often.
Good point. Alf,
Well, it's hard to pick out one thing, but
you're more than welcome to say 2 or 3.
okay.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm really proud of, that we put Winnipeg on the world hockey map.
Yeah.
And we went to Russia, we went to Sweden, Finland. But the biggest game, I think, that people remember is when we beat the Russian national team in Winnipeg.
True.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Norm.
Yes, I would just like to say that, winning the championship was the ultimate for me, and playing with such a great hockey team. And I want to just say kudos to the fans of Winnipeg who stuck with us through thick and thin. We, they hung on to the problems that we had, and we weren't sure sometimes if we were going to play or not. But the fans of Winnipeg are so passionate and so knowledgeable of hockey, and they deserved a hockey team that was that good. And after I left, I left for Switzerland after we won the championship, and the team continued to get better. And like Wolf was saying, no doubt about it, beating the Russians in that game was unbelievable, and the fans appreciated it that much more. And so I thank the fans of Winnipeg, and they continue to be passionate and to be great fans. And it's good to go back to Winnipeg, and it's good to talk to all my friends in Winnipeg and talk about hockey.
Listen, we're so thankful that Anders has hung in there. I know he's got 2 or 3 headsets going on. He's probably doing business decisions or something. He's probably trying to get onto another team. Anders, I want you, if you don't mind, to hey, I didn't realize leaving Winnipeg and getting to Toronto, I'd have to use smoke signals to get somebody to answer a question, but we'll try this anyways. Anders, could you try, if you can hear us, to give us a couple of moments that just we know the championships are so important. Do you agree with the Russian game? Is there something else that maybe comes to mind of one of those moments in Winnipeg?
The Russian game for sure, especially being a European, and at the time the Russians were beating the NHL teams, the national teams in Europe, with lots easy scores. And then we had lost to them in Moscow and in Tokyo on the big ice surface, and we welcomed them to Winnipeg, and they had everybody the best they could have on the ice, and we beat them 5-3. It was one of those for a European at the time almost an impossible task to do, and we did it. Unfortunately, it was just televised across Manitoba, not Canada. If it had been televised across Canada, it would have been a total different impact of the quality of the game of the team we had in Winnipeg. And I just will follow up on Norm. Winnipeg, Manitoba, the Prairies, people love hockey. They just love it, and it was wonderful to be part of that landscape because I love the game also.
Okay, listen, guys, final question to you all. I know the Hockey Hall of Fame has already called me to ask if we could do a Zoom call. Zoom's a little bit easier. This one, I'm able to put pictures up. Today I haven't, just because I know it's been so difficult for Anders, and we really appreciate you hanging in there. But your final question to you, your all-time favorite player that you played against, not somebody that you played with on the Winnipeg Jets. Is there somebody, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best player, but fans always love to hear who you thought at your time was the best player or even funniest player you ever played against. I'll start with you, Norm.
One of the best players that I played against, and I've been fortunate enough to play against Andre Lacroix. I loved his style of hockey. He was very skilled hockey player, and he came to play every game, and he was outstanding. Of course, he won the scoring in the WHA, so that makes him my favorite.
Alf, the same question, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a player in the WHA or in the NHL. You played worldwide. Is there somebody that you could tell us about?
Well, there are so many great players,
Yep.
but it was amazing to play against Gordie Howe when he was 52.
Was he still good? Did he play? I can't recall.
He was still very good.
Yeah, God, 52 years old. Peter.
I only played exhibition game and benefit games against him, and obviously, but I've never seen anybody like him. Was Bobby Orr.
Right, absolutely. Great pick.
No doubt.
Anders Hedberg.
I would say Larry Robinson in Montreal Canadiens. They beat us in New York our first year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But every time you played against him, he could skate, he could think, he was so damn tall, and he had a shot that from the blue line that was scary, and you just couldn't beat him on the outside. So he was the toughest one to play for me, at least.
Hey, guys, have you noticed, Norm, Alf, and Peter, that as we've gone on with this, all of a sudden, after warm-up, Anders has really picked up. Right?
He's finally warmed up.
Hey, listen, guys, I can't thank you enough. I could do this all day with you guys. And if we kept with Alf at the beginning or Anders, we would be here all day. I know on the Hockey Hall of Fame is looking forward to doing this. Norm, I'm going to reach out to you. Paul Pascu has already mentioned it here. Could we do that? I'll get a hold of you. We'd love to have Alf, Anders. Hopefully we can get Bobby on, Peter and the boys again on a bigger opportunity to talk about the 45th anniversary of the AVCO Cup. 3 AVCO Cups in Winnipeg. Phenomenal, guys. You're not only legends to Winnipeg, you're legends to the game. And I'm going to state here, I've got to see you play live. And I'll tell you what, there was no better team than 1975, 76, and then onwards, of course, I got to watch them. So compliments to you guys. Thank you for what you've done, not only for hockey, but for the game all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for talking to you guys.
Norm,
Hey,
Peter.
You'll walk a day on your meeting, Normy.
Peter, yeah, see, I'll be joining it pretty soon.
I'll be.
Okay, Alf, what does this mean exactly? Are you praying or something?
Talk to Peter.
Enjoy your wine, Ulf. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Do not forget an open invitation. This was an open invitation.
Take care, guys.
This was an open invitation from Alf Nielsen that anybody that wants to come to Stockholm, give him a shout. We can go and do some wine tasting.
Yes.
Great. Good.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao, boys.
Bye.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Alf.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Normie. Well, I'll tell you what. Unfortunately, a little bit with Anders. He warmed up. You saw him at the end. Anders Hedberg. Oh my God. Ulf Nielsen. Peter Sullivan. As a young man, and I'm not that much younger than them, but just to be in and standing beside them. Remember being in the Winnipeg Arena, waiting for their autographs or watching them play, watching them on TV. It was remarkable. And, obviously I played many years, 16 years in Europe, obviously throughout my years, winning an Allen Cup in Thunder Bay and not quite reaching to the NHL, but even still getting to meet these type of legends that you've been around all these years watching, and getting to talk to Ulf Nilsson personally, Anders Hedberg, of course, Peter Sullivan, Norm Beaudin, I've had on several times. You know, it's always great to hear from him, but it's amazing how you can hear some of these stories, finding out that Ulf Nilsson felt Gordie Howe at 52 was one of the most impressive players that he played against. Of course, Peter Sullivan stating Bobby Orr, which is true. You know, I never got to see Bobby Orr at the time that he played his best hockey, but Peter Sullivan did. And that's where you find out about a player. We can all, as players that watch the game or play the game, we've got an instinct opportunity to see and understand them behind the scenes and how they got to be so good. Sometimes the fans don't get that opportunity. So I really want to do a heavy shout out to all the Winnipeg Jets fans. We had a great show today. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of technical issue brought from Sweden. I'm going to blame Sweden for this one. Obviously, Anders Hedberg, I think he's up where Santa Claus is getting ready for packing his Christmas presents for us. Hey, listen, please, on December 19th, we are hosting a very important game. It's called the Ice Hockey Classic Shootout. It's going to take place at the at Paramount Ice. It will be a COVID-protected game. Event. It's for Stop Concussions and, of course, Connected Mental Health. We all know we have to be out and helping all of those players and families that are dealing with mental issues through this COVID situation. And, of course, we have just announced the Stop Concussion online store. It's your one-stop shop. There's special offers every day. We've got Black Friday specials. We're going to run Black Friday specials all the way up until Christmas. So please check the website out. All the proceeds go back in support of these great causes, Stop Concussions, and of course, Shoot for a Cure, Canadian American Spinal Research Organization, and Connected, a mental health program. We help people all around the world. So please take time out, purchase something, and it'll help us continue on doing the great work we're doing. Hey, listen, you've been watching Gouche Live right here, brought to you by those good people at the Hockey News. I want to do a shout out to Graham Rouston. Stephen Ellis was on with us. We're going to have him back on. We're going to be talking about the World Juniors, what's going on there, the NHL. Is it going to start? Is it not going to start? We'll have him on front part of the week. And today at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we've got Talking with Taylor. We will be asking him those questions. As a journalist, he is right on the pulse of what's going on with hockey, and we're looking forward to getting some answers on that. And finally, happy birthday to our good friend Norm Beaudin, Greg Beaudin. Thank you for organizing this phenomenal show, and we will be hosting this again, hopefully with the Hockey Hall of Fame with Pat Pascu. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. See you at 4:00. You've been watching Gouche Live right here, brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and, of course, sports.
Let's play some hockey.